Welcome to the Purim campaign trail as we travel across America, poking fun at all the ridiculous things that our politicians are saying and doing. Well, at least I thought that's what this was going to be. You know, back around July of 2023, when I got the idea, started collecting the props and the clips, and I was all ready to start editing this thing. And then this happened. The world was filled with all of these horrible images. You've seen it. Pictures of atrocities, pictures of explosions. Israel's at war. And suddenly, I don't feel like doing comedy anymore. And to make it even worse, Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, includes this in one of his speeches.
You must remember what Amalek has done to you, says our Holy Bible, and we do remember and we are fighting.
I literally gasped in horror when I heard Netanyahu say that. To invoke Amalek is to invoke genocide. Now, he tried to walk that back and say, no, he wasn't talking about all the Palestinian people, he was just talking about Hamas. But the way this is played out, as of the recording of this video, over 30,000 people have been killed. And it seems there's no end to it. Netanyahu's not accepting a ceasefire. He's not listening to anybody. But in order to understand how that biblical reference relates to this, you have to know who is Amalek. Amalek was the king of the Amalekites. We first meet them in the book of Exodus as the Jewish people are coming out of Egypt. The Amalekites attack. And later on, we learn that was from the rear. They didn't engage Joshua honorably with the warriors. They attacked the weak people straggling behind, the children, the women, the elderly. And that's usually who's at the end of a march like that. And anyway, this is the battle where Moses is standing on top of a hill and he's holding up his hands. As long as he holds his hands up, the Jews are winning. But when Moses becomes tired, they begin to lose. And so Joshua holds up one hand and Hur holds up the other like this. And the Jews win the battle. And they're told to remember what happened. And that the time would come when God will blot out the name of Amalek. Well, it doesn't completely get blotted out there, because later on we meet the Amalekites in the book of Samuel, where King Saul fights King Agag, who is now the king of the Amalekites, and he becomes the ancestor of Haman the Agagite, Haman the Agagite in the book of Esther, the arch enemy of the Jews who tries to trick the king into wiping them out. But Esther calls his bluff, so to speak, and reveals his plot, and the Jews are saved. And the book of Esther is what we use to celebrate Purim, which brings me to my Purim dilemma, which is the title of this video. Now, when we read the book of Esther at Purim, we're doing it during a carnival. This is a time to eat, drink, and be merry, wear costumes. And as we read the story, we cheer for Mordecai. When we come to Haman's name, we wipe out Haman by drowning out his name with all kinds of noisemakers. And that's all well and good, and it's all fun and games, except that right now there's a war going on where people are literally being wiped out. And it's not just Netanyahu. invoking Amalek. There are memes all over the place calling upon the army to wipe them out. There were soldiers posting these victory videos and all kinds of crazy stuff that, to me, destroys the whole spirit of Purim. How am I going to celebrate a holiday where we talk about wiping out Haman when people are literally being wiped out? You know, every war, there's always a picture that personifies it somehow. I don't know what picture the world is going to choose to remember this war, but this is the picture that stands out for me. It's a little boy, a little Palestinian boy, hugging his cat in the rubble in Gaza. I don't know who took the picture. It showed up as a meme, but it personifies to me the tragedy of this. That little boy looks a lot like my grandson when he was younger. And even more coincidentally, if you can call it that cat looks like my cat, Moshe. So now I'm stuck with the dilemma of how I'm going to relate to Purim. You know, this week's Sedra, this week's Torah portion right before Purim, we read the section called Zakor, remember, from Deuteronomy. Remember what Amalek did to us as we were coming out of Egypt. And it's hard not to remember that Netanyahu evoked that, and it's resulting in the death of tens of thousands of people. For whatever he may have claimed he meant, it has turned out to be a total disaster for both sides. For the Palestinians, thousands of people are killed, and for the Jews, the world is turning against us, not out of anti-Semitism, but out of horror and anger at what Israel is doing as a state against another people. I will end with a story about Rebbe Nachman of Breslov that might be relevant here. Rebbe Nachman struggled with bouts of depression. Some people have thought he might have been bipolar, but it would happen sometimes he would just sink into depression, even at times of joy. And so one time on Simchas Torah, which, by the way, is the same Jewish holiday when Hamas attacked, so there maybe is a connection between what happened with the Rebbe in the 1700s and what happened in 2023. But anyway, he became so depressed on Simchas Torah, a time when we normally dance and sing and carry the Torah scrolls and rejoice, but he couldn't do it. And he goes out to the back of the synagogue and sits down, and he picked up a rock and just looked at it. You know, for whatever reason, this rock caught his eye on the ground. He picks it up, looks at it, and he begins to connect with the spark of holiness, the nitzotz, the signature of God, so to speak, that is in everything of the creation. And by connecting with that, he connected back to God and once again began to feel joy and could go back into the synagogue and dance with the Torah. So I leave you with that thought. And normally I would say go ahead, leave your comments. But for this video, I'm going to mute the comments because I don't want to start a flame war here on YouTube. And I hope that you will strive to walk a path of beauty, joy, and peace.